Hello, I'm James Mayer, and today I'm in Vila Nova de Gaia at Coburn's with Paul Symington. Paul Symington, good morning.
Good morning, James.
You recently stepped down after 16 years as chairman of your company, Symington Family Estates. In your view, is there a particular reason why a family business structure should be suitable for wine production?
There absolutely is. I think there's a huge affinity between families and wine because of the long-term. Everything's long-term in wine. You plant a vineyard for the long term. You don't get anything really wonderful from a vineyard for 5 or 6 years after you planted it. Aging the wines is all about time, yes. And I think that there is a great affinity. Family companies tend to get squeezed out in most businesses, but in wine, I think they work very well together.
Your time at the helm of Symington's has coincided with the emergence of the Douro as one of the world's top fine wine regions. Would you like to talk about your role in this development?
Well, I have to say, until the sort of early 90s, we never really thought about red or white wines in the Douro, and we just thought about port, which our family had been doing for centuries, literally. Sure. And I always had the sneaking suspicion that there might be something there. And we really only got serious about it at the end of the 90s. So it's relatively new for us. I mean, we're talking about 20 years, really. And I'm just thrilled to bits with the quality of the wines and the reaction that they have in the world markets. And I agree with you. I think that over the last 16 years or 20 years, I've seen this great growth. So we now have producing what I consider two great wines, port and Douro wines.
Yes, that's interesting. You've been a tireless ambassador for the renaissance of port, and this has been a fantastic success. How do you see this evolving over the next generation?
I think the change will probably be even more rapid in the next generation and over the next decade. Fortified wines have been drifting out of fashion for some time, but port has been amazingly successful in reinventing ourselves away from the more simple everyday ruby ports to creating a really substantial production and sale of the premium ports. So I think my family and my children who are now in the business are looking to probably selling less volume port but more premium port, which is more exciting really in a way. So lovely old tawnies aged in wood, vintage ports which sold young on primeur normally, and great reserve ports and late bottle vintage.
Yes, that's extremely exciting. And of course, at auction recently, you've been getting some remarkable records.
Yes, what the ultimate judge of the worth of your wine is what people pay for it in the secondary market. Yes. This is what the great 1855 classification of Bordeaux that classified first, second, third gross was based in 1855 on the price those wines, not the Exceller price, not the door price at the chateau, but what the wines fetched in the open market in Paris. And it's interesting that now in 2018-19, the ultimate judge of the great Bordeaux wines is what the auction price of these wines. And our vintage ports over the last few years have emerged as the number one, the highest priced wines at the auctions, which is deeply satisfying. And it's really down to the great skill of my cousin Charles, who's a really brilliant winemaker. And the wines are so good that people recognize them as such, and the price has gone up. Not our Exceller price, it's the trading price that people buy and sell.
That's very exciting. What do you think is the current direction of Portuguese wines, and in particular, of course, Douro wines?
I think that a new generation of winemakers, the first generation ever to be properly trained as enologists. Before it was just how you learnt with your forebears. But now there's an outstandingly good enology, the science of wine course at the University of Villarreal called UTAD. And basically it's helped transform the Portuguese wine scene. And I think we produce world-class wines from north to south. What we haven't done is really affirmed Portuguese wines yet at the very highest level, apart from vintage ports, of course, internationally. And I would love to see some Portuguese wines gaining the status of the Super Tuscans, of some of the great Burgundies and Bordeauxs, and of course the great New World wines like Screaming Eagle, etc. But I think that will come because our unique grape varieties, our unique soils, there's possibly even just a little bit too much diversity in Portuguese wine, and I think we need more focus on the best regions and the best grape varieties.
Yes, you mentioned UTAD a moment ago. I believe your company has recently set up a scholarship.
We have. We believe very strongly as a family that a good company of any nature, but especially wine companies, you need to work in your region, not just pay your taxes, which of course you should, but we have a profound love for our region, and we've given 10 ambulances, one each year for the last 10 years. Another one is short. I signed the check just the other day for a new one for São Fins do Douro, which will be the 11th fully equipped ambulance given by us. And we support the UTAD bird recovery program. We try and help in many ways. And a recent idea was to help children of Douro farmers who might not have the resources themselves to pay for their university course. And so there are 2 students on the course now. It started in September, and this coming September there'll be another 2, and the following year another 2. So we'll have 6 students sponsored by us going through the wine making and viticulture course at UTAD. I think it's just part of what we should do.
Yeah, that's very interesting. You talk about the children of Douro farmers. Are today's generation of young people still wanting to work on the land?
Well, it's one of the huge challenges we face in the Douro. It's the last great wine region on the planet that is almost 100% picked by hand, and that's not sustainable. James, you know the vineyards better than most. They're extremely steep. A lot of the work has to be done by hand. And Portugal is moving fast. It's a member of the EU. The economy is developing. Tourism is taking people away from the land. And so we're finding it very difficult to keep people, or to find people, rather, to work. And I think that's one of the huge challenges we face in the Douro. We don't have flat vineyards, or very few to speak of. And therefore we need a new generation of young professional farmers who are prepared to dedicate their time to that. But the old-fashioned small landholdings will almost inevitably disappear.
Yeah. I'm sure you would agree with me, Paul Symington. Another challenge that agriculture is facing is the challenge of accelerating climate change all over the world. It's not just a Portuguese problem. And just as the wines of the Douro are reaching the summits of international recognition, we in fact know that the Douro may not be sustainable. What's the wine industry doing, and Symington's doing to meet this challenge?
Well, we're doing a lot of things. I mean, it's the erratic nature of, there are 2 major threats to the Douro. The erratic nature of weather. We had a terrible storm last year on May the 28th. Yeah. I'll never forget it. It was a Monday, May the 28th, and 40% of my own private vineyard was obliterated in an hour and a half.
Yeah. Wow.
With a mixture of massive rain, 90 millimeters in an hour and a half, and hail. So we're getting erratic weather patterns and overall hotter summers. Both of those are very damaging. We 5 years ago planted a massive collection, 53 different ancient Douro grape varieties up at one of our vineyards called Villarissa in the Villarissa Valley at Quinta do Etaíde. And that is a long-term project to see how these different grape varieties react to different climatic conditions. And we have some control samples, which is some of the international grape varieties, Cabernet Sauvignon, Syrah, etc. there. And we basically, that is a long-term climate analysis to see how they react to the different climatic conditions. We're also investing heavily in the vineyards to combat erosion, which is very bad when you have these outrageous storms that seem to hit us more frequently now. And overall, we're also looking at different canopy management and pruning techniques to give more shade to the grapes on the vines through the hot summers. But the Douro is a very challenging place, but it has one big advantage, which you know very well, James, when that is altitude. Most wine regions are relatively flat. And so if there's an average temperature increase in the region, it'll affect everybody. We have vineyards at 600 meters and vineyards down at 120 meters. And there's about a 1.5 degree difference for every 200 meters. That's average. Yeah. So we can plant, and we are planting more higher up the valley sides, which is not something available to many wine regions in the world. So that gives us one advantage.
Yes. In 2012, you were nominated Decanter Man of the Year. At the time, I remember you said that you felt that you should share this distinction with the other members of your family. I would love to know, are there any personal achievements that you're particularly proud of during your time as chairman?
That Decanter Award was nice. It was the first person from Portugal ever to win the Decanter Person of the Year. There wasn't one before, and there hasn't been one since. So it was nice, but I did see it as a team effort. You know, I led my family, but I worked with my brother and 4 cousins. Now there are 9 Symingtons in the business because there are 5 of the younger generation. So it's very much a team effort, and it would be a bit odd for one person to claim the credit. But what would I see as my personal achievement? I think one of the things is strengthening our family unity to make it sure that we continue this great family tradition. In my time, I came back, I was sent abroad by my parents, and I came back in 1979, age 24, and I was the 4th generation. Now there are a lot of the 5th generation in, the 6th generation already running around the vineyards. And I think one thing I think I've helped is to maintain family unity and pride in the continuity of the family business. You know, there's always a temptation of people saying, well, look, if I sell out, I can go and live in a grand house somewhere. But there's a real dedication by my family to the Douro, to our vineyards, and to what we do here. We're the only major port family where every member of the company who's a family member owns their own private vineyard. And we sell our grapes back to the family business. But that is a unique feature that is not replicated in any other of the big port companies. And I think it's a very powerful proof of how we... So what's basically happened is when the family's got some dividends, they've gone back and invested it in the Douro, which is madness, really. But it is, you know, a financial advisor would say, well, for heaven's sake, you're already completely dependent on the Douro. Go and put your money somewhere else. And we've all just bought our own vineyards. And that really shows the level of commitment, which I believe is pretty unique.
Now, that is a great achievement. It must be very satisfying. And now, at this stage, with your wealth of experience, any new projects that you would like to tell us about?
Well, I am really determined to help try and change the regulatory system in the Douro. I think there are lots of serious problems with this antiquated regulatory system, which takes no account of the changes in the Douro, the changes in the fact that there's now great Douro wines as well as port, and it's doing a disservice to port and a disservice to Douro wine and disservice to the Douro farmers. So I've made myself a little bit unpopular. I've written some articles, been published in the paper, and I'm really pushing the Secretary of State to initiate the changes that I believe are really necessary. So though I'm retired from my executive position, I maintain obviously my share of the business, and I'm going to use that to keep pushing for those changes. I'll also want to spend more time at my vineyard that you know well, up in the valley, Pingyang Valley. And I know you've been there several times, and we've loved having you for lunch and dinner there. And I want to spend more time there, and just enjoy a little bit more less hectic life. But I won't be going anywhere very far because this is my home.
Excellent. Well, Paul Symington, I wish you the very best for your future endeavours. Thank you so much.
Thank you, James. It's a pleasure.